I try and see the funny side of life, because there's tragedies everywhere you look, especially at my age. You get a phone call. The minute they say, do you remember so-and-so, you know what's coming. Oh, they've gone over. I said, well, remember them in a good way and have a laugh at the funny things. Remember them in a nice way, not all the silly stuff that went on.
The idea of losing your cohorts, losing your peers, the people you've known for many, many years, is something that most of us haven't thought about at all. Do you get used to it?
Kind of. There are times when you remember the nice times, and then something would happen and anybody else wouldn't realise what you're thinking of. Oh yeah, that was my friend. He used to do that, but unfortunately he's passed over now. And I try and remember, not in a sad way, but the comical life situations that you get into that wouldn't be funny to anybody else, but when you're actually there experiencing that moment, you see the funny side of it. It's like this. It's
kind of your life, your memories,
yeah.
And it's hard to explain because it was a moment in time.
And if you haven't been through that, if you never lived in a dock area, you wouldn't realise, like they talk about criminality and East End. I mean, years ago they used to say, oh, the East End, terrible. Not really. It's only what the papers decide they want to print. I said this was a dock area, very much so, and there was always, how can you say, things falling off of a lorry. Now,
right, off the back of a lorry. Right.
Now that's a terminology that if you went out into the countryside, they'd think, oh, what, it fell off? I said, no, what it meant was, as they pulled out the dock area, there would be people to go and literally thieve it. But that's how they lived. They was on a very, very low pittance existence. And unfortunately, I said, that's a lot of families had to do that.
It's almost like gleaning in the fields in the countryside.
Yeah.
Taking the leftovers, taking what you can.
Exactly. And you see it from a different point of view. What can I say? Times change. That doesn't happen anymore because it's a different world.
So this used to be a dock area,
very much,
and it had a population that reflected that. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So it was still that when you were younger.
Yeah, it was give or take, mostly dock and dockers, if you will, that worked on the ships. And when the ships came in, all the children would gather round the dock area because they say the banana boat's coming in. Now anybody else think, what are you talking about, banana? I said, watch. And all of a sudden in East London, everyone had bananas and fruit. Well, you go out a bit, that didn't exist. So in one sense, you was on a very meagre existence, but you did eat because you had to do that sort of thing.
So everyone benefited off the exotic goods that came in.
Exactly.
On the boats.
Exactly.
That fell off the back of lorries.
For sure, but you'd never admit that. It's like turning what we call a blind eye. You'd look the other way and go, no, I haven't seen that. But now,
It doesn't have that industry now. There isn't the docks anymore. This is kind of almost entirely residential. Is that right, Wapping?
Oh, very much so. It's changed so much in a sense, because even your accent, obviously I'm from East London, but people have renamed it Wapping Village. And there's such an extension of, how can you say, people that have bought houses on the rivers riverfront there.
You're pointing to the riverfront, where I'm assuming the houses or the flats are expensive because they look over the
very
river.
Expensive. You would never have dreamt that in the East London dock area in Wapping, you would have flats going for astronomical amounts of money. I'm a council tenant, but how times have changed. In every area you go to, there's a very expensive area, and then there's the average person like myself. You exist in, now I've retired and I'm on a pension. But happy days. I try to remember the good times and not linger on the tragedies because we all go through them sooner or later, And children now, they're told what to do. See, I have got a thing about when they go to school. I feel personally that in schools, they're taking over the responsibilities of the parents. They're told what that child can wear and do and how they can behave. And I said, okay, forget all the prejudice and we know that exists, but don't tell that little child of 7 or 8 that they can dress as a girl one day and a boy the next day, and have no. That will come naturally. That will come with the hormones and their lifestyle. They will realise what persuasion they've had. But don't tell them and tell the parents. I said, no, when my son or daughter goes, they're a girl and a boy, first and foremost. I said, and later on, when life kicks in at a certain age, when they know, but don't you dare influence my children that they're going to. I think that's totally and utterly wrong, and I should think that should be banned. And the teachers and the hierarchy, so-called hierarchy, that are doing that sort of thing, where is their mindset?
When you were at school, what do you remember about the culture at school, how the teachers were, how the kids were? Was it happy days? Was it quite rough and tough?
In a sense, rough and tough, but you knew where you were, and obviously they've got to have rules and regulations like in life. And but it wasn't as confusing as today. I think if I was going to school today at that age, I'd been, what do I do? What do I say? I can't say this, I can't say that. People know.
So you think it's quite complicated now, and it used to be quite simple being a kid, because there was less choice and there was less options. It was just like, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
And when you're older,
just natural, and wait till you get at that age. At 10 and 12, you can't be 24. That's life experiences, how you feel. But now you're told what you can do, who you can look at, how you... everybody's got their vocabulary in a different manner. If someone round the East End said, oh, little short bald-headed Bobby, I wouldn't be offended, because that's what you see. But now you can't say that, that's not...
And you're describing yourself there, you're pointing at yourself.
Yeah. And I think, well, look, I would know if someone was being derogative to me or being nasty. But you're told how to think, even down to the flag that you can fly. I won't go into things like that because it gets all out of hand. But
fixing on the idea of when you have a point in your life when you start making decisions and start being a bit more independent. Do you remember when that was in your life? Do you remember how you started to realise, right, I've now got a certain amount of control over my life, I'm now getting out in the world?
In a sense, around about 17, because you start growing up. All right, it's a different way of life today, obviously. But me personally, I just coped with things, you know. I used to, again, might be my silly way of thinking about things. I just used to laugh off a lot of stuff because, look, don't go there. Just get on with your life. The more bitter you are, the more anguish it will affect you and people around you.
So what were you doing at 17, 18? What was life like? How did it look to you? Do you remember how you felt about the future? Was it like, I could do anything I want? Or were you like,
no, not really.
options are not that?
I was so busy working and trying to pay the rent at that age
Yeah.
that I didn't really... I might have, if I'd have lived now at that age, I might have changed a lot of stuff. But no, I think I just, the average person really, just earning a living, going to work, trying to get through the day, you know. But I don't envy being a young person today.
You're not wishing you were a young person now because you think it's just a different ball game.
No, not really. I lived a life, you know. I attained certain things, and I was quite happy, you know.
What did that happiness mean for you? I mean, what was happiness for you? Was it bringing home a wage at the end of the week? Was it certain family things? What
Family issues, you know. I got married when I was young, had a child, and that was my little world. You know, I was very, very happy with what I had. You know, I didn't have real big ambitions of any sort. So basically, I was quite happy. You know, I knew I had to work and do overtime if I wanted extras. And yeah.
I saw an interview the other day with someone, just a short clip, where someone said, when I had children, I knew what I was doing in life. That was almost like the simplest part of life because you've just got one job and that is to be a parent. And I thought that was a nice encapsulation of actually what being a parent is. You just know what you're doing.
Well, again, being a parent, you've only got to look around you. Being a father is quite simple. I'm taking a leaf out of one of my children, what they said in a card to me. Being a father is simple. It happens. Being a proper dad is something different. We've noticed that you get up thinking of us. You're the last one in line. I said, well, that's the way I look at it. I said, you know, I know where I'm going. I'm going to work. And I'm hoping that you have the same attitude later on, that people around you are important. Get in line. And I said, yeah, I don't mind being the last in line because I've created this. I said, this is what I'm all about. You and the children. You know, very simple.
It seems like a natural state of being. So they're pointing something out to you which they're admiring, and they're saying you give a lot as a dad, and you're saying that's what you do.
Yeah, but I was quite pleased that they realised, and as I look back now, and my children are going through the same thing, I say to them, see what I mean? You get up in the morning when you're youngsters and it's about you. What am I doing? I said, but as you get older and you have children, you think, what are children doing? Where have I got to be to get them at school? Do they need uniforms? It's like being in a queue. You're the last in the queue. See to them and then you're happy. That's your world.
There's a mum just walking past with a pram and her son with a little car playing a tune. This park is quite peaceful. It's obviously quite old because the trees are quite big and well established. Has this always been here, this park?
It's always been here as far as I can remember. The only not new, but the sports centres, that was a dock place.
So that was a dock,
Yeah, it was all docks here, all river, going all round.
and it's all been
in
filled
Wapping, if you lifted all the bridges up, you couldn't get off of Wapping.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What you see now
I'm
is,
gonna have to look at the whole map for that.
about 4 to 5 bridges, and as the ships come in, they had to do a full circle, come in, unload, and go out. Because
So it was like
ships
there was a one-way system for the ships
Yeah.
to do the loop. It's a shame it hasn't got that kind of dynamism now.
Well, again, the population is exploded, and different. How can I phrase this properly? Different types of people are coming to Wapping. Before it was purely labourers, dockers, whatever, Now it's changed so dramatically. As I say, you would have never dreamt 50 odd years ago that the houses would have been going for that sort of money. Ex-council places going for incredible amounts of money, because London is very expensive. Very expensive. You've only got to move out a little bit and see what you could get here for a 2-bedroom flat. You could buy a house with a grounds and a swimming pool outside of London, but even that's changing.
What's your feeling about that? You've seen the change. You've been here all the time. Do you and your wife sometimes say to each other, things ain't what they used to be, and this wealth is not a useful thing? Or do you just accept it and just go, it is what it is?
We basically accept it, that's the way things are going. I never really thought about it, because I'm living in this moment, not the past. I can remember the past as nice, but I'm living in a real world, and places do change for whatever reason. And like you and I know, everybody knows, money makes a difference. Period. Money makes a lot of difference. And sometimes you've got to be happy with what you've got.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes because you can't help dreaming sometimes of what if.
Oh, don't we all? What if I was tall and good looking and more educated and, yeah, I think everybody would change different issues if you could. But then, would it be any different?
Would you be happier, is what you mean? If you had all these things that you dream that you might have in an unreal world?
I think it's a dream. It's like winning the pools, isn't it? Winning lots of money. I think I would try to help my family, pay off the mortgage maybe on their house. But then, are you helping? Or sometimes you look at people that are very, very well off, but they're not happy because they're not leading a happy life. So, swings and roundabouts, as we call them.
You mentioned education just in passing just now. If I was, more educated, or if education wasn't a barrier, has it been a barrier to not have a certain education for you in your life?
Earlier on it was, because I wasn't very educated whatsoever. That's my fault. I never paid attention. Don't blame anybody for that. And sometimes I look back and think, well, yeah, you could have learnt another language, improved yourself academically, but maybe not spiritually. And by that I mean the kindness of the heart. That's something that people have got to understand. You see someone less fortunate than yourself and you think, wow, how would I cope if I was Like I used to work at the London Hospital, one of my jobs, as basically healthcare come nurse.
The Royal London in Whitechapel?
Yeah. And I see some unfortunate cases there, you know, and you think, wow, this person is going through, I'm physically fit, I'm able, very, very strong. That person can't wash themselves. How would I feel if I was in that position? So you try and adapt. Yeah, you know, it pulls at your heartstrings. You think, wow, how would I cope? So you can understand if that person is getting a bit upset, moody, and you think, yeah, how do I try and help this person without being condescending, without being, you know, and difficult. You can't feel how someone else feels.
Yeah, the only thing you can have is empathy and understanding. That's not going to help them or change them, but
No.
it might go a little way. As a nurse in a big, busy East London hospital, you get a very concentrated melting pot of society, don't you? And everyone's in quite an extreme circumstance. There's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of anguish.
Wow.
It's quite an intense place, hospital.
Yeah.
Did you find it that way, or professionally do you distance yourself from it?
No, I try to. What would I say? Not be different, but I always imagined a line. Who I am here. The minute I cross that line, I'm going into someone else's bedroom, someone else's life, someone else's expectancies, and I tried the best way I could of saying, okay, how can I help you? What can I do? You know. And I used to look at some of the younger nurses and I said, why do you do that, Bob? I said, what? I said, wash them people the way you do. I said, look, I said, you're very young. Would you like me to come and wash you? They said, not really. I said, right, I don't wash them. I said, I hold their hand with my hand and they wash themselves, but I'm moving it. I said, watch. And I used to move their hand. Get the towel, same thing. I said, that's showing dignity. We know we've got to do this job. We know we've got to do these things. But do them, for want of a better word, love and kindness. I said, put yourself in their position. How would you feel?
And then when you cross back over that line, walking out the hospital, let's say you have like a night out with your colleagues and you go down the pub or what have you. Do you talk about other things outside of work, or are you kind of like de-stressing from work by talking about work?
No, I left that private. That was another, you know, obviously you come across do, but because you respected the privacy of them patients. So they didn't need to be talked about other than on your job. So you talked about your life and the usual stuff that people get into, whatever it might be.
You mentioned it was one of your jobs. How many different kinds of work have you done over the years?
Many, many jobs, from a van boy to a physical training instructor for the Inner London Education Authority, teaching young people how to keep fit and various things, to selling shirts in the market. Again, London Hospital, running a gym at one point, London Transport, minor doors. Quite a varied...
That's a lot.
Quite a varied, and that's only a few, you know.
Do you like change? Do you like mixing it up?
Yeah, because I could see other ways, like when I worked in the markets. The markets that used to be, not now, they don't exist. it was hilarious. The things that used to go on was quite funny, you know.
Are you talking about the banter? Are you talking about the environment of the shoppers?
Who actually really did, and I've got to be careful here, who really did own the stalls, because half of the people that literally owned it, they had to get it off of somebody else.
Right, so the chain of ownership and who was...
Yeah. So
everyone found a way of making things work.
Exactly. If the inspector came round, he would say, isn't Mr. Cohen here? I said, no, he's just round the corner. Mr. Cohen didn't exist. You know,
and I'm sure the inspector knew this. I'm sure everyone was in on the charade.
Of course, yeah, you know. And the experiences you go through, which I can't mention on the mic, it's like when I worked on a stall up the West End, just off of Piccadilly Circus. There used to be all the strip joints there, and I'm going back, way, way back. And the hilarity of when you see things that were happening.
So you're part of the street furniture, but you're watching everything. You're watching the circus of life pass by.
The circus of life is an incredible thing, because some of the things that used to happen at the local labour exchange, for instance, people used to arrive there. This was in the days when...
And the labour exchange was like a job centre? Where you just went and got casual day labour stuff?
And you used to go along there, and if you was out of work, you'd submit your UB40 and the rest of it. And they'd say, right, what do you do normally? I'll come back next week. And you knew people that, fact to life, were working, but also claiming, because they tried to survive. See, this is it. And unless you've been there, you won't realise that the meagre money could just about eat. So you had to do a little bit of what I call private work, you know, whether it be a van boy, someone ain't turned up, so you'd fill in for that day and get cash in hand. Like most of the building sites was cash in hand, but they wouldn't tell you that.
So you're basically talking about the daily hustle being a necessary thing when you were younger, and if you didn't hustle and bend the rules a bit, you wouldn't make enough.
You wouldn't exist.
And life would be...
Being honest, I will go as far as your local politicians and so-called government officials, when they go out and they supposedly they're going to do something, they put it on expenses. I can't do that. I can't take you out to a local thing. If I'm discussing Wapping High Street, go to Wapping High Street. Don't go on holiday to Dubai to discuss what you're going to do.
So you're talking about kind of like basically the corruption of office.
The corruption of office.
Public office.
Goes from the local, government there to everywhere. And you think, look, and these are the people that are supposedly running the country. And the decisions they make, an idiot out on the street could say, that's wrong, it won't happen. Why put this big monument up for £1 million when people are starving in these things? Why? Me personally, I can't see the sense in that, because you've put that up and 6 months later they say, we've got to take this down because we didn't realise they're going to build another. Why? Because you're working in that office, you know what's going to go on and what isn't going to go on. So why are you doing it? We know why you're doing it.
So you're saying, from your understanding and experience of watching local government, it's quite often not fit for purpose.
No, definitely not. They
And
couldn't get a job elsewhere doing the same thing. They'd be fired.
and that's
Now
just annoying to you
and
watching it.
We've had experience around there. I won't say names or whatever, but selling council-owned property. It came out in the local papers that certain council officials somehow, I wouldn't know how to do it because I ain't got the brain, but they were selling some of the council-owned properties
For
to
their own.
private buyers for their own thing. Now, I couldn't do it, but they done it. And when they were found out, what did they do? They got so they moved them in the next office. And they got their relatives in on that job. Now, you explain to me how that could happen, because if I'd done it, I'd be fired. I would be in prison for fraud. They do it and they get away with it. I don't think a lot about it really, to be honest with you. You know, I'm just getting on with my life as it is, and rightly or wrongly, I might be wrong. I think the little short time I've got left, I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be, but there's lots of stuff that's wrong.
You mentioned what little time I've got left. Thinking about the future, how do you kind of think about the past versus the future, and whether it's something you spend a lot of time contemplating or
No.
ignoring or looking forward to?
I just look forward to waking up the next day. With
Keeping it simple.
and looking at my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and just hoping that they get through life, But that's a big hope, because everybody, no matter who you are, experiences bad times, good times, mental issues, physical issues, the whole trip. No one gets away with it. And it's a matter of the way you are, the way you cope with it. Say, okay, well, this is it, this is what I got. Let's enjoy the day.